Welcome to this installment of Meet the Russians Who Are Not Russian. And we're going to talk today about Bashkortostan. So here's the reality of the Russian Empire. For 400 years, the Russians went out and conquered territory and peoples. And over the course of the last 500 years, they have simply retained their control over these territories and peoples. But the peoples themselves believe that they are an independent people who have a right to self-determination and freedom from the Russian Empire, finally. And today we're going to talk about Bashkortostan, which was first incorporated into the Russian Empire in 1552. So for 550 years, these people have been fighting the Russians to try to win their own freedom. So dig it. 1552, the Russian Empire shows up, slaughters everybody, kills all the men, claims the territory for themselves. But these people are not put down. There was another revolution in 1574. Then again, in 1640, 1662, 1681, 1704, 1735, 1755. Over and over and over again, the Bashirs have fought for their independence from the Russian state. It wasn't until Catherine the Great comes along with her Council of Muftis. Now, what she did was the same way that they used the Russian Orthodox Church to control the ethnically Russian people, right? Oh, the czars are your divine rulers by divine right. They used the Council of Muftis. She paid off a bunch of Islamic mullahs to say to the people of Bashkortostan and Kazakhstan and other Muslim majority areas inside the Russian Empire, to tell them, hey, this is your queen, your empress, by divine right. It is the will of Allah that she rules over you. That, combined with the brute force of the Russian Empire, kept the Bashiris in line. For about, there were only two major revolutions in the 19th century after Catherine formed the Council of Muftis in 1774. So the next real chance for independence comes in 1917 with the Russian Revolution and the deposing of the Romanov dynasty. And the folks in Bashkortostan took good advantage of it. They declared independence. They got themselves an army, a constitution, a president. They fought both the White Army and the Red Army, right? The Tsarist, the pro-Tsar army, and the Communist Army. They sent an embassy to the Tsarist elements and said, hey, listen, let's talk, and maybe we can support you in this war, and we can have our independence. And the Tsarist commander shot the embassy, killed them all. That led to certain sympathies for Lenin and his people. And Lenin was smart about it. Lenin said to them, hey, guys, take all the sovereignty you can. Grab it all for yourselves. You have an army. You have an independent constitution. You will be the autonomous Soviet of Bashkortostan. Basically your own country, right? Your own Soviet. Now that, of course, was a lie. And Bashkortostan, like all the other Soviet republics, was folded in under the great empire of the USSR. And another chance for freedom didn't come until the fall of the USSR. In the 1990s, after the fall of the USSR, Bashkortostan declared its independence. The Declaration of the State Sovereignty of the Bashkir Republic has been adopted by the Supreme Council, so they said. But you know who was on the horizon and who was going to put a stop to that, don't you? This SOB right here. He marched in and he made sure that this republic, like so many of the others, were not permitted to break away. There were protests, there was fighting. That fighting was brutally repressed by Putin and the regime in Moscow, just as it has been for 550 years. One of the things that people talk about all the time is how can Putin just send his men to war to a meat grinder knowing that they're going to be killed? Well, one of the things is he does not care. He's sending these guys, these kids from these outlying republics who are not ethnically Russian, in this case, who tend to be Muslim, and he doesn't want them to come back alive. He wants them out of the picture. He's committing genocide not just against the Ukrainians, but against those people inside the Russian Federation who are not ethnically Russian, opening up in his mind opportunities for new Russian colonial expansion inside the territory of the Russian Federation. It's obscene, and it can't be allowed. And the Bashkirs aren't putting up with it. Many of them left the country, right? That 1.2 million Russians so far that have fled Russia to Kazakhstan and other places to avoid conscription into Putin's war. Thousands of them left from Bashkir. Now, will they come home if Bashkir is free or if it begins to fight for its own independence as the seams of the Russian Federation split? I think so. Here's why. Meet Agulayan, who is fighting for Bashkir independence as part of the Bashkir National Political Center. And according to her, she saw the genocide in Putin's war from the very beginning, protested against it, encouraged young men to flee. And when the time comes for Bashkiri independence, she believes that they will return and fight for their own independence. As does Ruslan Gabasov, who also believes this and is part of the Bashkir Nation in the League of Free Nations, a movement for independence of Russian federated states that will only gain more ground, more political power as Moscow squanders the wealth and weapons that it has, as well as its reputation, both internationally and internally. Bashkortostan, just one more former Soviet state that will seek its own independence as the power of Moscow wanes. Welcome to the international community, Bashkortostan, and we wish you the best.